Most people think discipline is hard because their brain tells them it is. They trust that signal without ever questioning where it comes from. They assume difficulty is proof. Proof that the task is demanding. Proof that they are weak. Proof that discipline requires force. None of that is true. The signal they are listening to was never designed to measure difficulty. It was designed to prevent change. The human brain is not optimized for progress. It is optimized for survival through energy conservation. Any behavior that is unfamiliar, undefined, or not yet automated is treated as a potential threat, not because it is dangerous, but because it is uncertain. Uncertainty costs energy. Energy loss used to mean death. The brain still operates as if that were true. This is the first lie behind discipline. The feeling of resistance is not a warning about the task. It is a warning about novelty. The brain is saying this is not yet mapped, not yet predictable, not yet safe. That signal feels like effort, but it is actually friction created by incomplete pattern recognition. Once a behavior is mapped, the signal disappears. This is why people can repeat destructive habits effortlessly while struggling with beneficial ones. The destructive habit is already automated. The brain knows exactly what will happen. No prediction error, no energy spike, no resistance. The beneficial behavior is undefined. The brain does not know how long it will last, what it will cost, or when it will end, so it pushes back. Most people interpret that pushback as laziness. It is not. It is biological caution. Here is where discipline is misunderstood at the most basic level. People think discipline is the ability to override this signal, to push through resistance again and again. That is brute force. Brute force fails because it fights the brain instead of training it. Real discipline does not fight resistance. It starves it. The brain stops resisting once it learns that the behavior is inevitable, not desirable, not enjoyable, inevitable. When inevitability is established, prediction stabilizes. When prediction stabilizes, resistance collapses. This is why discipline becomes easy suddenly, not gradually. People expect discipline to feel like increasing strength. In reality, it feels like decreasing noise. One day the internal debate is loud. The next day, it is quieter. Then, it is gone. Not because you became stronger, but because the brain stopped asking questions. Questions are what drain energy. Most of us never reach this point because they keep reopening the question. They check motivation. They check mood. They evaluate meaning. Every check tells the brain the behavior is still optional. Optional behaviors never automate. They stay expensive forever. This is why motivation culture is poison to discipline. Motivation teaches the brain that action depends on feeling. Feeling fluctuates. So the brain never commits. It stays alert. Alertness feels like effort. Discipline is the removal of optionality. Once optionality is removed, the brain reallocates resources. It stops preparing arguments. It stops scanning for escape routes. It stops generating resistance signals because there is nothing to resist. The behavior is already decided. This is not self-control. It is system control. Look at how the brain treats non-negotiable actions. You do not feel resistance when you breathe, stand up, or lock a door. Not because these actions are pleasurable, but because they are closed loops. There is no internal discussion, no evaluation, no emotional check. Discipline works the same way when done correctly. The problem is that most people try to install discipline at the behavior level instead of the decision level. They focus on forcing action rather than closing the decision permanently. As long as the decision stays open, resistance remains active. This is where identity interferes. People like to believe they are flexible, spontaneous, intuitive. These identities require open decisions. Closing decisions feels like losing freedom. The brain registers that as threat, so it generates discomfort to protect the identity. The discomfort is not about the task, it is about self-image. An undisciplined person is not protecting comfort, they are protecting narrative. As long as discipline is hard, they can believe they are capable, but circumstances are wrong. If discipline becomes easy, narrative collapses. Results appear. Results remove excuses. The brain would rather feel tired than feel exposed. This is why discipline is delayed, even when people know it would help them. Delay preserves ambiguity. Ambiguity protects ego. From a biological standpoint, discipline becomes easy when three conditions are met. First, the decision is closed permanently. No daily reevaluation, no emotional veto. Second, the behavior is repeated without variation long enough for prediction to stabilize. Third, emotional reward or punishment is removed from the process. No celebration, no self-criticism. Both reinforce optionality. When these conditions exist, the brain rewires automatically. Resistance disappears because it no longer serves a function. Most people never experience this because they keep adding emotion back in. Pride, guilt, shame, excitement. All of it tells the brain this behavior matters emotionally, which means it can be negotiated. Negotiation is the enemy of automation. This is the core reason discipline is easier than people think. It is not a test of strength. It is a misunderstanding of how the brain commits to patterns. This biological misunderstanding connects to identity and self-image. Why people unconsciously sabotage discipline to preserve who they think they are, and why inconsistency feels safer than control. That is where most people get trapped. Once the biological misunderstanding is clear, the next layer explains why people still resist discipline even after they understand how it works. This layer has nothing to do with effort or comfort. It has to do with identity, not identity as personality, but identity as protection. Most people believe their sense of self is stable. In reality, it is negotiated constantly. Every inconsistency, every delay, every abandoned plan plays a role in preserving a specific self-image. Discipline threatens that image because it removes ambiguity. Ambiguity is where identity hides. An undisciplined life allows endless interpretation. If outcomes are unclear, the story stays flexible. You can believe you are capable, but unlucky. Focused, but misunderstood. Strong, but constrained. None of these beliefs require evidence. They only require that behavior remain inconsistent enough to prevent clear conclusions. Discipline removes that buffer. When behavior becomes consistent, outcomes begin to accumulate in one direction. Accumulation is dangerous to ego because it produces comparison. Comparison creates rank. Rank exposes position. Most people do not want to know their true position. They want to believe it is higher than it currently is. This is why inconsistency feels safer than failure. Failure is final. Inconsistency is editable. As long as discipline feels hard, people can tell themselves they are choosing not to commit yet, that they are waiting for the right time, that they could change everything if they wanted to. Discipline becoming easy removes that fantasy. If it is easy, and they still do not do it, the excuse disappears. So the mind interferes. It creates reasons to reopen decisions. It introduces emotional checks. It reframes discipline as rigid, unhealthy, or extreme. These are not objective judgments. They are defensive narratives designed to keep identity intact. This is why people sabotage themselves right before discipline stabilizes. Not at the beginning, but just before automation would lock in. That is the moment when identity is most at risk. At that stage, the brain introduces variation. A rest day becomes a break. A break becomes a pause. A pause becomes abandonment. Each step feels reasonable. Each step restores ambiguity. The story survives. This is not weakness. It is strategy. Unconscious strategy, but strategy nonetheless. Identity also feeds on social feedback. People are used to being evaluated on intention, not outcome. As long as effort is visible and results are delayed, they receive sympathy instead of comparison. Discipline removes visible effort. It produces quiet results. Quiet results invite measurement. Measurement threatens social comfort. When others can measure you clearly, they can place you. Placement introduces hierarchy. Hierarchy introduces discomfort. Many people would rather be liked than placed, so they avoid discipline while claiming to seek it. There is another layer to this. Inconsistency allows moral leverage. When you struggle openly, others soften around you. They lower expectations. They excuse behavior. They offer reassurance. This creates a subtle advantage. You are protected from judgment. Discipline removes that protection. A disciplined person does not receive sympathy. They receive expectation. Expectation is heavier than criticism. Expectation assumes capacity. Capacity removes excuses. This is why some people become hostile toward discipline. Not because it threatens them directly, but because it raises the baseline. A higher baseline exposes those who choose not to meet it. Discipline changes the local standard without permission. Identity resists this because identity is relational. It is shaped by contrast. When one person becomes consistent, others are forced to confront their own inconsistency. That confrontation feels like accusation, even when none is made. So discipline is reframed as obsession, as imbalance, as loss of joy. These labels protect identity by discrediting the threat. Most people do not consciously think this way. They feel it. They feel discomfort around disciplined behavior and translate that feeling into judgment. This is why discipline attracts commentary. Not praise, but concern. Not criticism, but suggestion. You are advised to relax, to be flexible, to enjoy life. These comments are not about your well-being. They are about restoring the old equilibrium. Equilibrium keeps everyone comfortable. Discipline disrupts equilibrium by making behavior legible. This is also why people over-identify with struggle. Struggle signals virtue without requiring outcome. It allows people to feel good about effort even when results are absent. Discipline removes struggle. Without struggle, there is nothing to display. Quiet execution feels empty to those who rely on display for validation. As discipline takes root, identity begins to thin, not collapse, but simplify. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is trying and start seeing yourself as someone who does. That shift is subtle but irreversible. Trying allows commentary, doing does not. Without commentary, the ego loses surface area. There is less to defend, less to explain, less to perform. This feels like loss at first. Many interpret it as boredom or emptiness. In reality, it is compression. Compression produces density. Dense identities are harder to manipulate. They do not need constant reinforcement. They are not built from reaction. They are built from repetition. This is where people either retreat or cross a threshold. Those who retreat return to inconsistency. They embrace flexibility. They reclaim the old narratives. Life feels lighter again, but nothing changes. Those who cross the threshold stop asking what discipline says about them. They stop using behavior as a mirror for self-worth. Action becomes mechanical. Identity steps back. This is the turning point. Once identity disengages from behavior, discipline accelerates. There is no longer anything at stake emotionally. No image to protect, no story to maintain. The brain no longer needs to interfere. At this point, discipline stops being something you do to yourself and starts becoming something that others experience from you. That is where the next shift begins. Once identity stops interfering with behavior, discipline starts producing effects that have nothing to do with self-improvement and everything to do with how systems treat you. This is where most people misunderstand what has been happening to them their entire lives. Because exploitation rarely looks like force. It looks like normal interaction. Social systems are not built to reward discipline. They are built to extract responsiveness. The more emotionally available a person is, the more usable they become. Use does not require malice. It requires access. Discipline limits access. That is why it changes how you are treated without any explicit shift in attitude. An undisciplined person believes they are participating freely. They believe they are choosing to help, choosing to adapt, choosing to be flexible. In reality, they are responding to cues embedded in the system. Deadlines framed as urgent. Requests framed as reasonable. Expectations framed as norms. None of these are commands. They are signals designed to activate compliance without confrontation. Emotional people respond to signals automatically. That response trains the system. The system learns how much pressure is required to get movement. Over time, the pressure increases because it can. This is not punishment. It is efficiency. Discipline breaks this efficiency. When you stop responding automatically, the system loses calibration. It does not know how much pressure to apply. It tries the old levels first. Urgency, reminder, escalation. When those fail, the system must adapt or redirect. This is the moment when undisciplined people feel invisible pressure and disciplined people feel sudden space. Most people never experience this space because they fill it immediately. They explain, they apologize, they reassure. Each of these restores calibration. The system learns that pressure still works. A disciplined person does not restore calibration. They do not explain delays. They do not justify timing. They do not preempt disappointment. They simply act according to internal structure. The system must now work around them. This is where exploitation becomes visible. You start noticing how often people assume your availability, how often they frame their needs as shared priorities, how often they rely on your reaction to stabilize situations they created. None of this felt malicious before because you were participating. Discipline does not make people treat you better immediately. It makes their behavior clearer. Some reduce demands. Some escalate pressure. Some withdraw entirely. Each response reveals how much they relied on your compliance. This clarity is uncomfortable because it forces re-evaluation. Relationships that felt mutual reveal asymmetry. Professional dynamics that felt collaborative reveal extraction. Social bonds that felt supportive reveal dependency. Undisciplined people often sense this, but never articulate it. They feel tired, used, underappreciated, but they blame workload or bad luck instead of recognizing the pattern. Discipline interrupts the pattern directly. Once the interruption happens, systems adjust in one of two ways. They either increase respect for structure or they seek replacement. Both outcomes confirm the same truth. Your previous value was tied to responsiveness, not presence. Discipline changes that valuation. Presence without responsiveness is expensive. It cannot be used freely. It must be accounted for. Systems do not like accounting. They prefer predictable output. This is why disciplined people are often left alone rather than praised. Praise is a signal used to encourage more output. Discipline resists encouragement, so the system reduces interaction instead. Reduction feels like loss until you understand what was being lost. What disappears is not opportunity, it is extraction. This is also why disciplined people experience fewer emergencies. Emergencies thrive on quick responders. When you are no longer a quick responder, emergencies reroute around you. The environment reorganizes to avoid friction. This reorganization is invisible unless you know to look for it. You notice fewer interruptions, fewer last-minute requests, fewer emotional escalations, not because the world became calmer, but because you stopped being a pressure release valve. Pressure moves elsewhere. This is when discipline starts feeling protective rather than demanding. At the same time, something else changes. You stop being included in certain conversations, not the important ones, the emotional ones, the venting, the complaining, the speculative anxiety. These conversations exist to regulate collective stress. Disciplined people are no longer useful for that regulation. Being excluded from emotional processing can feel isolating at first, but it is also a signal. You are no longer being used to stabilize the system emotionally. Stabilizers are necessary, but expendable. Discipline removes you from that role. You begin interacting with systems at the level of function rather than feeling. You are contacted when something needs to be decided, not when something needs to be soothed. This is a higher leverage position, even if it feels quieter. Quiet positions often hold more power than visible ones. Another illusion collapses here. Many believe being indispensable requires constant availability. In reality, constant availability lowers perceived value. Scarcity increases it. Discipline creates scarcity by default, not as a tactic, but as a consequence of structure. You are no longer everywhere. You are no longer always ready. You are no longer instantly reachable. The system adjusts expectations downward, then upward again, once it learns what remains consistent. Consistency is what survives. This is why discipline eventually feels easier socially as well. Once systems recalibrate, they stop pushing, they stop testing, they stop escalating. They either align with your structure or disengage. Alignment feels clean. Disengagement feels quiet. Both are preferable to constant pressure. At this stage, discipline has done something irreversible. It has changed how much of you is available to be extracted. You are no longer an open resource. You did not announce this. You did not negotiate it. You did not defend it. You simply stopped reacting. This is why disciplined individuals are often described as difficult rather than wrong, cold rather than cruel, distant rather than hostile. These labels are not judgments of behavior. They are emotional responses to loss of access. People rarely say, "I cannot move you anymore." They say, "You have changed." Change is framed as a problem because it justifies resistance. At this stage, discipline begins provoking social pushback that feels confusing if you are still interpreting interactions emotionally. Friends become less inviting. Colleagues become less collaborative. Familiar dynamics lose warmth, not all at once. Gradually, quietly. This is not punishment. It is recalibration failure. Some people cannot operate without emotional reciprocity. They need reaction to feel oriented. When reaction disappears, they feel unmoored. Instead of adjusting, they withdraw. Withdrawal feels like rejection to the undisciplined mind. To the disciplined mind, it is information. This is the sorting phase. Relationships that were built on emotional exchange rather than structural alignment begin to thin. Conversations lose momentum. Contact decreases. You are no longer pulled into constant engagement. This can feel like loss until you realize what is being lost. What disappears is not connection. It is dependency disguised as closeness. This phase exposes a hard truth. Many bonds exist because one person consistently gives more regulation than the other. Once that regulation stops, the bond weakens. Discipline reveals this imbalance without accusation. That revelation is rarely welcomed. Some people respond by escalating moral pressure. They imply you are selfish, that you are less caring, that you are prioritizing yourself unfairly. Moral framing is not about ethics here. It is about leverage. If they can make you feel responsible again, they can restore the old dynamic. This is where many people collapse back into responsiveness, not because they doubt discipline, but because they mistake guilt for wrongdoing. Guilt is simply a signal that an old role is being threatened. If you respond to guilt by explaining yourself, the role survives. If you respond by remaining disciplined, the role dissolves. Dissolution is uncomfortable because it removes familiarity. Familiarity is often mistaken for safety. Discipline replaces familiarity with clarity. Clarity is colder. At this stage, you may notice something else. People begin talking about you differently when you are not present. Not negatively necessarily, but cautiously. You are described as focused, private, hard to read, independent. These descriptors are social shorthand for someone who cannot be easily positioned. This is why discipline often precedes loneliness. Not because discipline isolates you, but because it removes you from roles that kept you integrated. Integration based on overextension was never stable. Loneliness here is transitional. Most people do not endure this phase. They interpret the quiet as failure. They rush back into availability to restore connection. Connection returns quickly. So does extraction. Those who endure discover something unexpected. As emotional noise drops, internal pressure stabilizes. You are not managing multiple emotional contracts anymore. You are not tracking expectations you never agreed to explicitly. Mental bandwidth returns. Some people grow more respectful. They become clearer. They stop assuming. They adjust their behavior to match yours. These people are capable of operating without emotional shortcuts. Others cannot. They interpret discipline as rejection because their sense of connection depends on immediacy. They move away. Both outcomes reduce chaos. At this stage, you may feel heavier socially, not burdened, weighted. Interactions carry more significance because there are fewer of them. You are no longer spread thin across endless emotional exchanges. This weight is not power yet. It is density. Density changes how others approach you. They do not rush in casually. They choose moments. They prepare. They wait. This is the beginning of status shift, but it is not complete yet. What completes it is endurance. Discipline must persist through this resistance phase or it collapses. This is the point where discipline is most often abandoned, not because it is difficult, but because it costs familiarity. Familiarity is seductive. It feels like belonging. Discipline asks you to tolerate standing slightly apart without explanation. If you can hold that position without reacting, without justifying, without compensating, the resistance burns itself out.